Brothers and sisters in Christ, I have to say that daylight savings time is over. I also like that. I like the extra hour of sleep. Sunlight hurts my eyes. But I think that we're confused with daylight saving times, whether we gain an hour or lose an hour. It's worse when we first go into it because people tend to not be here in a timely fashion. So it's over for a while. There are a number of things that are presented to us. Of course, we know that we're now in the month of November. November will lead us to the season of Advent, which begins on November 15th. And maybe I have to do a commercial so you know that we mark Advent with an Advent series, which takes place on Wednesdays beginning on the 19th of November. And our practice is that we have a Vesperal liturgy, an evening celebration of the liturgy at 6 p.m., followed by a meal, a Lenten meal, of course, around 7:15, and then a presentation. So maybe the idea of a Vesperal liturgy is something we have to familiarize ourselves with a bit more. It begins with Vespers and flows into the liturgy. It provides another occasion that people can participate in the Eucharist. So we should remember that. We indeed have a number of things that are presented to us. If we look back to yesterday, we have the unmercenary physicians Cosmas and Damian. There are three pairs of them. I think that really it's kind of an elaborate story of two brothers claimed by many different areas. But the idea basically is the two brothers are the children of a family that the father initially is a pagan who becomes a Christian but dies shortly thereafter, a mother who has spent most of her life as a follower of Christ. This is in the period just before the legalization of Christianity by the Edict of Milan in 313. They are a pair which are brilliant. They study every discipline, but they end up focused on medicine, and their notion is they heal in the name of Christ without payment. They're unmercenary physicians. We know that their life ends up in martyrdom, that they indeed give a final witness to Christ. That indeed is something we should remember. Today, we have Achiendemos and Elpidophoros, who are martyrs from Persia. They come early in the 4th century, and we know that the story tells us that the Persian king Shapur begins a persecution of Christians. The small group confess Christ and strengthen each other in their confession of Christ. They too are martyred and give witness to Christ. So we have those events. But we have a gospel today, a parable that I find extremely frightening. It's unusual because we have the name of Lazarus in it. And of course, it's frightening because it makes me confront my reaction when I see people in need. We have a story which is filled with contrast. Comparison and contrast, we have the two individuals. We have one, the rich man. It tells us a story that he is, dressed in purple and fine linen. Purple's kind of important because it's the most expensive dye. It's made from a small gland of a clam, very expensive. That's his day-to-day attire. He constantly eats like banquets. We know that, when I'm doing this on purpose because of a napkin, the napkin really is the pita bread. We have this man who sumptuously feasts, and he has to step over Lazarus, a poor beggar, to get into his house. He doesn't see Lazarus. His attention is focused on himself, but not on those in need. The story of Lazarus is shocking. He's a poor beggar who is dressed in rags. He's covered with sores. He's begging for the crumbs and maybe that pita bread napkin that comes from the rich man's table. Then we hear the next event. Both of them die. We hear that Lazarus is carried by the angels to the bosom of Abraham, taken into heaven. The poor man is buried, all right? And then we have a story which has these two individuals, Lazarus in a distance, in comfort in the kingdom of heaven with Abraham, and then we have the rich man looking up and saying, Father Abraham, I am suffering, my lips are parched. Send Lazarus with a simple drop of water on his fingers that he might wet my lips and comfort me in this scorching heat. The comment is, in your life, you had everything. You were wealthy, you feasted, you lacked nothing. Now you have your reward. Lazarus, on the other hand, suffered, was in great need and distressed. Now he has his reward. All right? Then we have questions. The man basically says, then send Lazarus into the home of my father because I have 5 brothers. We want them indeed to wake up and not end up in this place. Abraham says, they have Moses and the prophets, let them listen to them. The dialogue goes on. The rich man says, yes, but if one comes from the dead, they will indeed hear him. Very interesting text. Very interesting story. Maybe the sort of a phrase might be, open your eyes. The rich man was not looking around him. His eyes were closed. He was focused strictly on himself. Was he a bad man? I suspect he sort of paid his membership. He did his tithe. He probably took care of his family. Obviously, he was concerned about his brothers and those in his father's household. But somehow, he didn't notice what was put before him. When we deal with Lazarus, it was hard to miss him. He literally had to step over him to enter into his house. But he did miss him. Well, the tale is given to us, and it is a story of Christian life. We too are called to open our eyes and see what the Lord puts before us. Where there is pain, where there is suffering, where there is sorrow, we're to be present, and we have an active role. So, I've heard sometimes that this is kind of a political statement, that we should be active where there's need. It's not a political statement. It's an application of the gospel to the world we live in. So we do not want to end up like the wealthy man. We indeed want to open our eyes, see what the Lord puts before us, and indeed come and care for all of his creation.